upon completion of that training, which was in February of 1970, I reported aboard my first submarine, which was the USS Lapon, SSN 661 in Norfolk, Virginia. And Lapon was interesting because they had just returned in December from an extended mission for which they were recognized with the Presidential Unit Citation, one of the first times that a submarine had received a Presidential Unit Citation. And the activities that the Lapon had gone through, of course, made all of the crew members that I joined when I reported aboard very proud of what they had done. And of course, they couldn't talk much about it with me until I got my clearances and met the requirements to understand what the extent of that particular mission had been. But subsequently, much of that particular mission was declassified and can now be talked about, and it was essentially involved in the submarine forces' ability to maintain contact with the Soviet submarine force that operated in the Atlantic and the Pacific, and they did that very successfully, and they received that recognition. So of course, my training was being done by people who had proven what they could do in the submarine force. So the responsibilities that I had while I was on Lapon were to qualify as an engineering officer watch, qualify as a diving officer watch, qualify as an officer of the deck, and then subsequent to the completion of those three watchstanding qualifications, complete submarine qualification, which was an extensive and demanding demonstration that I understood how submarines worked and could operate the submarine, and to meet the specifications of the crew, the officers, and then ultimately the commanding officer of the ship, that I was able to satisfy the fact that they were going to accept me as a shipmate, and that I had what it took to be an effective submarine officer. And for that particular qualification, you then had the privilege of wearing the gold submarine dolphins, which is our warfare designator for those people who have qualified in submarines as officers. Enlisted men receive the silver dolphins for a similar kind of a qualification, which is equally as rigorous. Upon completion of submarine qualification and the opportunity to stand those watches and to serve as a division officer on board the submarine, I was the damage control assistant, the weapons officer, which gave me some exposure to how to maintain the equipment that we were responsible for, and to be able to effectively repair that equipment if we needed to at sea. While I was on Lapon, we made 2 deployments to the Mediterranean that were 6 months in length, and those were deployments that allowed us to continue to hone our submarining skills, to build an effective approach to a team way of operating our ship, and to make sure that the tactical capability of the submarine was honed by everybody that was on board, so that we could execute our mission if we would ever have had to in actual combat. But of course, we were doing missions similar to what my predecessor crew members had done when they had received that recognition for the Presidential Unit Citation on Lapon. The Mediterranean at that time, of course, was a very intense area of the world, because we had the Soviets had a very strong presence in the Mediterranean. There was a lot of concerns about what was happening in the Eastern Mediterranean with Israel and all of the activities that took place there. And of course, there's also an awful lot of merchant traffic that takes place in the Mediterranean. So it was a very dense shipping area, and it was something that really kept you on your toes as you had to operate the ship in that particular environment. So I was fortunate to be able to gain some interesting experiences there.